The human brain is a pretty fucking awesome piece of hardware, isn't it? Millions of years of evolution have shaped what is essentially a mound of wet tofu the size of an average bowel movement into an incomparably powerful logical and computational engine. But like the bricklayer's mortar or the fat beachgoer's suntan lotion, the mind is useless unless applied, and for the more cultured individuals such as you and I, this principle takes form in the puzzle game genre, specifically this week with The Witness. As a product of binaries tends to be, there are two types of puzzle games. A good puzzle game gives you the pieces in a strong central mechanic, which you use to bring the pieces together in a string of logical conclusions, whereas a bad puzzle game is Candy Crush, and anything like Candy Crush, because fuck Candy Crush. Focus, James. Just because corporate mandation in video games is slowly killing the art as we know it is no reason to get upset, so let's just keep our spirits high and think on the positives, yeah? Anyways, a good puzzle game challenges you into thinking beyond the reward for completing the puzzle so that your attention is devoted entirely to the puzzle itself. That way, the satisfaction comes from having overcome a mental barrier rather than just opening a door and getting a thing, because if satisfaction were that easy to come by, contestants would have been able to leave the dating game without filing divorce proceedings before the honeymoon was over. And speaking of honeymoons, The Witness begins with you, the unnamed and inaudible protagonist, waking up on an idyllic island resort, apparently magical in its exemption from the laws of latitude and longitude, as it somehow manages to squeeze 8 of the 9 major biomes into the space the size of your average parking lot. You find yourself alone and are forced to navigate the island and uncover its many secrets by drawing lines on grids, and yes, of course there's more to it than that. That's the strong central mechanic, you know, the one I mentioned like 2 paragraphs ago that all good puzzle games have, and there are enough tweaks to the formula that it never gets as boring as it sounds out of context. Furthermore, I'll respect The Witness for not treating the player like an absolute moron. I appreciate how the only thing standing between you and the solution to the puzzle is your ability to analyze your surroundings and put the pieces together, often making clever use of the environment in the process, and there's just the right amount of tutorializing when each new complementary mechanic is introduced to make you comfortable, but not enough to feel tedious. And while many of the puzzles might be a little too abstract, like the ones that require you to stand about 30 feet from the puzzle panel and squint until your eyes are primed to bursting just so you can see the fuzzy low-res shadows that trace the path of the puzzle solution, or the ones that are just straight up trial and error, the difficulty curve is fair and balanced, and the open-ended nature of the game means you're allowed to tackle the puzzles in any order you see fit. What I don't so much appreciate is the pseudo-spiritual philosophical bullshit the game touts instead of having an actual fucking point. This problem isn't endemic to The Witness either. I see this crap happen all the times in independent puzzle games where the game is littered with quotes by famous intellectuals and live-action clips of dudes talking about cell reproduction or whatever, all devoid of context to somehow make up for the fact that the game doesn't have a theme of its own. This is a video game, not a fucking TED Talk. Puzzles are inherently exercises in problem solving, so neither I nor anyone gives a shit what Sun Tzu has to say about it. Demonstrating your ability to type in random philosophical nonsense on Google and hit "I'm feeling lucky" does not make you deep. You're not being prophetic. You're not being provocative. You're not being endearing. You're not being cute. You're not being mysterious. You're being lazy, and that's all you're being. Oh, well, I guess while I'm in the mood, I might as well keep nitpicking. It'd be nice to have more graphical options besides high, not so high, and yes. The lack of a jump is also a curious feature, and many a flow was broken by the protagonist entering a state of existential crisis every time he was confronted with a ledge more than like 3 inches in height. I can only guess at this point that jumping was excluded to prevent speedrunning, but if that was the case, then why did they let sprinting backwards be significantly faster than sprinting forward? The game's ambiguity gradually built up this grand reveal that just kinda didn't happen, opting instead for just another of those hollow mind screw endings that also seem to plague these kinds of games. And therein lies the rub. Despite some minor annoyances and not making any goddamn sense most of the time, I really enjoyed The Witness. The actual puzzle part of this puzzle game, you know, the part that actually matters, is very good, great even. The central mechanic is strongly defined, easy to use, and experiences enough modification throughout the course of the game to not become boring. It's a very pretty game that offers a thoroughly satisfying challenge. I recommend.